Welcome to Well Played Podcast, a show on all things playful and joyous. Together we are finding joy in the journey of life, and today I have with me, I am super excited, drum roll. I can't do a drum roll. I guess I could insert a sound effect here, but yeah, boom, right? Drum roll, Dwight Stevenson, Twitter handle DW Stevens. And we're talking about inspiration from Tchotchkes. I think this is an awesome title. I have to give credit. Dwight came up with this one. But I can't wait. It's going to be a fabulous episode. Before we dive in, Dwight, you want to introduce yourself a bit?
Sure. So I'm Dwight Stevenson, and I teach 7th grade social studies in New York State, up in the Adirondack Mountains, and just finished my first year at my current school. Taught high school before this, but really found my niche in the middle school. It's great.
I love middle school.
Yeah, it's so awesome. The kids are so excited. Like high school kids are like, I dare you to teach me. Middle school kids, you can totally get them all pumped up.
They're just fun. They're a ball of energy, and they're too big for the energy, so they're awkwardly moving through the school. It's fabulous. They knock things over. I love them. I love them.
Always at backpack level. Anything at backpack level, it's going to get bumped. It's going to get knocked. It's going to be a disaster.
I love it. So, you're 1 year into this job, and here you are in Well Played. So I'm pretty certain everyone's like, what happened in that year? I'm pretty sure that's the question. So, title, inspiration from Tchotchkes. How did this all happen?
So the year had gone by and everything, and the year was going great. I actually sprained my ankle in the middle of May and couldn't make it out hiking and everything Memorial Day weekend, and I found myself in Home Goods. So I was like walking around, and I saw this gold ceramic skull just kind of sitting on the shelf, and I thought, this is the ugliest, most awful decor piece. Why would anyone ever put this in their house? And then as I continued to walk around, I couldn't stop thinking about it, and all of a sudden this idea popped into my head that I needed that skull. I needed that golden skull to be this like end game artifact prize for my students to go searching for. And so like right at the end of the school year, when kids are kind of like done with school and everything, and
they're dropping off at that point.
Yeah, they're dropping off. And it was just like, this turned everything around. Like I had kids emailing me on the weekend being like, Mr. Stevenson, you got to write more clues for that golden skull thing. I got to find it. So it was pretty wild. And to think that all of this came from just a ridiculous tchotchke in the clearance section of a Marshall's Home Goods.
Well, what I love about that is, again, inspiration can strike anywhere. So, I think being a good teacher is allowing that sort of inspiration to unfold. And then probably what's unique, though, is having the bravery to like let it also happen in the class. Like we can be inspired and be like, that's cool. And then like not all of us activate on that inspiration. Mm-hmm. But to hear you like, I can picture you going up and down the aisles and getting further and further away from the skull, but yet being more and more drawn to it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wound up with 2 gold vases as well that also came into the classroom to kind of like build the atmosphere around it too. And a lot of that really just comes from the environment of the school. Like, and administrators play a really big part in that. And just, being in a place where you're feeling comfortable, where you can just go for it. Nice. Yeah. So that I think is really kind of a key element there too, like having that environment to be able to let it percolate and be like, yeah, I'm going to let my freak flag fly. This is going to be awesome.
I love it. So, all right, like a few questions then about it. So had you gamified the class before that?
No.
So these kids are just like doing their normal history, 7th grade,
Yeah.
And like you said, towards the end of the year, they're ready to be done. Like they're phoning it at this point. And then all of a sudden in comes this golden skull.
In comes this golden skull. In comes this, I decided to do a digital breakout. except, I couldn't just do a digital breakout. I also had to add in some physical elements to it and everything. And so that I wound up with this, like, how am I going to get my kids to study for the final exam? How am I going to get them to like want to do school at this point where they're just like, I want to go out and run around in the mountains. I mean, we have the fortunate place of being in the Adirondacks. It's beautiful up here. And so like kids want to get outside and do that. But like having all of these elements kind of come together. I'm reminded when I was thinking about this, I was reminded of Stephen Johnson's book, Where Good Ideas Come From. And he wrote in there that good ideas are bricolage. They are bits and pieces of all these different elements that kind of come together. They're not really original per se. They're just bits and pieces put together in a new manner. And so that's what sort of wound up happening with this. Was I was like, all right, well, let's give this a shot. Let's try this with my kids and see what happens. So they clicked on a little Alice in Wonderland GIF that took them tumbling down the rabbit hole, and all of a sudden they're filling out some Google Forms and signing up to let me know that they were on the quest, and it was off from there.
That's great. So the kids hadn't had that experience yet. So which means you didn't have a whole ton of experience like moderating and running a game and thinking of elements like anticipation and building that anticipation. But you did a really good job just sort of layering that sort of mystery, that mystery element that gets things excited, gets the heart going, and like you have a fortunate place to live, but it's an unfortunate like hard at the end of the year, man. I'd want to be outside just like them. So to like create that mystique inside the classroom, I mean, that drew them back in. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was really neat to watch it just sort of organically happen. I had a kid finish the digital breakout, finish the project that went along with the westward expansion unit that we were doing, and he's just like, I am all in on the Golden Skull. Like, I am gonna beat everybody else to get there, and let's do this. And like this kid finished a project which normally he would have stretched out into multiple days overnight. It
Yeah.
was it was pretty wild.
That was sort of what happened to me with my first taste of gamification. I did this Greek unit, and the first like quest you could do to earn points for your Olympic team was this Wikipedia entry thing. And I mean, it was just like the boringest. Like it was bad teaching on my part to like say that you make this Wikipedia entry. It's not the most exciting assignment, but it was a quest. Not everybody had to do it, and it was like in 2 days I had like 50 or 60 entries, because the kids like wanted to do it. They wanted these like Olympic
Hmm.
points. They felt part of this team. Like I don't know. There's just a lot of mechanics and things in play in a gamified experience that until you've taught that way, until you've seen that power, um, I honestly don't think you can fully understand what we're talking about until you've seen it, because it is palpable, and it's more than just extrinsic. It wasn't that people really wanted to win the skull, like they wanted to play the game. It is
Hmm.
I can't stress it enough. Gamification done right is totally intrinsic. It is about the joy of the experience.
Oh, absolutely. And so being my first time doing something like this, I had only written up to a certain point,
I love
and
it. I
the
love it.
and the kids kept on getting up to where I was. So I had to start making the clues even harder. So next thing I know, the kids are solving Braille clues. They're solving a Caesar cipher. They're like, decoding all of these elements. This one where I thought for sure
Buy
I was
yourself some
going to
time.
stop them. Yeah, I thought I was going to buy myself some time. And so I took a Google slide and I put a text box over the two elements that are there just by default. And so I wrote in white text, I wrote in the clue, and then I stuck it behind the two text boxes that are already there. So when they clicked, they would just click on the text box, they would try and highlight it, and
Yeah.
nothing would show up. And so for an hour and a half, these kids are like, "You got to tell me. it's just blank. And I'm like, nope, it's there. You'll get your clue. And so like an
Uh,
hour and a half goes by. And so like 3 periods later, these kids are coming running up to me. They're like, I got it. I got it. I got you. And I was like, oh, come on. I thought for sure, like I
you
bought
didn't even
myself a
buy
day.
yourself a day. You didn't even get a day. You were
I
probably
didn't
teaching. You didn't even get a prep period.
yeah, I was like, come on, you gotta, this is ridiculous. So then I got some polyhedral die and add some dice in there. So I was like, all right, random chance, random chance. And sure enough, like you have 3 rolls, 1 roll, 2 roll, didn't get it. Third roll. Of course they got it on the third roll. I'm like, come on. Like you guys get 3 rolls a day. I just give me a day to like get ahead of you guys a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, to have like students knocking down the door and wanting to learn like that, it's so much more than extrinsic. It has to be.
Yeah. No, I mean, I, I mean, you and I have seen it. So, like, I mean, it is so obvious that it's more than that when you see the experience, and like you just described, kids like are somewhere else in the day, kind of can't wait for that moment to see you again to say like, we got it, we
Yeah.
we got it. Like we're on to you. Like give us the next one, and we'll beat that one too.
Yeah.
You know, and what a great like camaraderie that is too.
Yeah. So and like the art teacher came down
Oh man,
to report to me. She's like, yeah, I overheard the kids talking and they're saying golden skull is life. I'm
I
like,
love it.
like
Wonderful hashtag.
what is this, like, that just sort of this learning kind of erupted out of nowhere, and yet it was there all along, just kind of waiting. And that's one of the things, sometimes you get those feather in those cap emails from a parent, right? And
Oh yeah.
so a parent of the team who actually lost to the team that won, parent emailed me to let me know. She's like, I've never seen my child more engaged, more excited to go to school. And, even though she didn't win, and man, did she want to, like, you showed her what the possibilities for education was. And it was just one of those like, oh, I can just hold on to that email forever.
Yeah, no, that is awesome, and I think that's a story that I'm glad you sort of told here because it's one of those things that it's worth taking the shot, people. That if you're on the fence, if you're thinking about it, apparently go up and down the home decor aisle of your local store and find some tchotchke because give it a whirl because that's the kind of connections you make. And what I love about Dwight's story there, he's getting this email saying this impactful thing for the student, this parent saying that like you really opened up their eyes to what school could be, and we're talking about the last like 2 weeks of school.
Yeah, this wound up this was like the last month of school, so it wound up being like a 3.5 week long quest. And finally I had 2 teams, and we did a mad dash for it. And I had it locked. I had the golden skull locked in a toolbox with a couple of locks that they had to get undone. And so this one of the team members was this very quiet, reserved young girl. And as soon as they got the toolbox open, she's hoisting this golden skull up over her head like the Stanley Cup, running out into the hallway, like yelling and shouting. It was, it's such a neat experience to watch that over those last like 3 weeks of school. Instead of just kind of phoning it in, making it really impactful for those students. It was pretty cool.
I
And
love
yeah,
it.
the
I
Tchotchke style. It's great.
Well, I mean, two things there. Like one, I absolutely love that you've created this moment, right? This thing that even for the team that didn't win, it is a moment they'll never forget. I mean, it is the Stanley Cup holding it over your head sort of moment for a seventh grader. So that's like super cool. I love when we take the time as educators to like build in moments.
Mhm.
I get that we focus on our content and our curriculum and all that, and like that's important. Yes, 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 yes. But um, I think it's something to be said that when like a kid graduates, we'll say high school, the things they're really going to remember about high school is like homecoming games, prom. There are these moments, right? But then as teachers, we just kind of make like duplicate days. Like they're just the same day over and over with just a different content, different. Like
Hmm.
here's my Andrew Jackson lesson. Here's my, like it's just one. And like when you think about the power of a moment though, and you made a moment,
Hmm.
you built this up, you made it into something, which brings me to my second point that I love about it. Far too often I think do we digitize everything, and I love the computer. Like I am a super techie, love it, love it, love it. So like i'm not
Yeah.
i'm not sitting here as some luddite saying like I wish we would just go back to the old. Like I love it, people understand that I love
Hmm.
it, but I also understand sort of human drivers. Like, and there's something to be said, especially now in this like all digital age, when there is that element of physicality. And I love that like you did end up buying the skull. You did end up having your digital breakout end up in like like a toolbox with all these locks. Like the physicality of it even makes that a more like powerful resonating moment that they'll never forget. Even the ones that we're watching at this point, it still changes it because they actually got to watch the physical thing happen.
Yeah, there was, I mean, and there were also physical clues that I included too. Like these kids were going to the southwest stairwell. And so, like, thinking about geography early on. And so, all of the clues went back to content from the year. And so, yes, the winners were exempted from the final exam at the end, but they had already proven that they knew all of the content stuff by solving the clues. And having those physical elements, I think, really added to it because, there's some kids that don't really get along with the computer all that well, but they really want to fidget and unlock those physical locks, and they really
Yeah.
want to, see, oh, hey, there's that QR code over there. There's a link taped to the wall above a rainbow over here. What's that all about? Like, what is, what's this link and gobbledygook behind this teacher's filing cabinet? Like, I mean, it was quite the physical experience of having the kids go all over the place too. It was really neat.
I love it.
Yeah.
So now well, I guess before I move on, I should ask like if somebody was going to set up something similar to the Golden Skull experience, if you were to sort of boil it down to, a few elements, what, how would you do that? Like, what would it be?
You know, figuring out some weird narrative story, definitely. I mean, when we think about kind of our human experience, stories are always there. And so, like, had it just been a golden skull, like, it was like, okay. But adding a story element to it, like, the golden skull has the power to transform the past. So we have to save the past from what it was and is, and not let it be changed by the society who can go
Can
back
do
and
that,
change.
yeah.
So kind of adding a story element in there. But I really think the mixture of digital and physical is really kind of neat for students to go back and see and look at. So the very first riddle told the students that they were going to have to go back to the start of where they're to start each day. And so I had an ongoing Google Slides presentation that was my bell ringer agenda schedule for the entire school year. And so when they scrolled all the way back to that very first slide on that slideshow, there was a little blinking golden skull gif on there. And that, if they clicked that took them to the next clue. And so, like, adding those elements and pieces of going back into your content area and into the materials you used already in class, but they may have passed over or skipped over or didn't even exist at the beginning of the school year. Being able to add those elements in is really kind of unique as well, and something that's valuable.
I think the best part of that is that was freaking genius. Because the storyline of the skull going back in time to change time and history, and then inserting in what basically is the timeline of your school year, your outline of every day of the school year, to go back to that first day and change it, because I'm assuming you did not have a blinking skull gif on day one.
I didn't
Uh,
even know that was a thing.
so like that's awesome, and it like so fits the storyline too. But I love it, and I couldn't agree more that giving a storyline a little context, even a tiny smidgen. I mean, I always talk in my workshop that I my whole storyline is just that the king's dead and that they're all part of these four houses. Like, it doesn't have to be huge. Like, sometimes the context could be a couple sentences. Like, your context is there's this society that can go back in time and change time with this skull. We need to get the skull. We need to stop it. That's it. Like, context
Yeah.
done. We're not talking about like a room makeover. You don't have to do that. It doesn't have to be like super big. It can be, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, it's sort of acted as a springboard for this year. I'm going to gamify all year long.
That was my next question. My next question is, where does it go from here, Dwight?
So from here it goes to now I've got not just the one golden skull. I now have two more golden skulls and a golden chicken pigeon thing, and
You've bought them all out.
some other golden elements. Yeah, I mean it's I mean the golden skull has to be the final big hurrah. So you got to have those little elements throughout to kind of hold students over, but still that narrative, starting right off, we're going to start right off with a digital breakout and break in. And so my students are going to become agents of slush. So agents of Saranac Lake, U.S. history.
I
And,
love it.
and so our agency is meant to protect history itself from the Golden Skull Society, who has that time machine and can go back in time. And so what we need to do is learn about the past as it happened through documents and really put that forth and write it down as things were and as they existed, so that the Golden Skull Society can't change the past, insert itself into the past, and then dominate our present. So in order to escape the tyranny of the Golden Skull, they have to maintain the timeline as it is.
Right, like everyone that's listening right now is like, I so want to do this. Like, I want to be a part of your class. Like, I mean, that's so awesome. And I write about this in my book a little bit, like with a little bit of that theme, a little bit of that context. I mean, really just our imagination, especially, as kids, but I would even say as adults, like our imaginations are endless. So when you even just put a drop of that sort of theme in to the mix, you chum that water a little bit, and our imagination takes off. Like, oh my gosh, I am on this team. Like, you're describing it to me. Here I am as an adult, and I'm totally like, yes, yes, we are going to stop them. We are going to like make sure we're going to be the preservers of history. Like, yes.
I mean, isn't that kind of what we're doing already with our lessons? Like, we want our students to be able to take a look at what happened in the past and give us a narrative back. Like, why did that happen? What happened exactly? And what were some of the impacts of what went on? And so, it's really
100%
just,
that's what we are already doing. But what we're not already doing as history teachers is inviting students to be a part of something bigger.
yeah,
Like, I think the traditional history class is history is important. You need to have like historical literacy. You need to be able to like read primary source documents. So we're basically just going to make you practice that.
hmm
Well, that's
uh,
that's not so inspiring.
well, I mean, that's still what we're doing, even if we
Exactly.
add that layer of game over it, right?
But now
And so it's,
you're giving that 12-year-old some context, some reason. Like, yeah, I'm going to be like an agent. That's part of this team to stop this evil group. Like, way cooler, willing to do it. Yet you're still using all the same history standards, same history content, right? But like, you just took that extra layer, and I'm telling you, that is just kudos to you. That's a better overall experience, both academically as well as just good old fun.
Well, as Steven Johnson said, it can't really be kudos to me. It's sort of like being around that nectar of gamification. I mean, I know I've been following your work for years, and Dave Burgess and all of these
Oh,
different elements, right? So it's like kind of just cobbling it together at the end. It's that bricolage piece, right? So
yep.
it's all of those different pieces and just kind of like, okay, let's see what sort of magic stew we can make for our students and make it work.
I mean, good job. I mean, because like I said, I went down in on this, and I'm really excited too that what does that say to all of us that you had this 1 month experience at the end of the year, and now looking forward to next year, you're committing yourself to like full tilt gamification. Uh, I think that really speaks to the experience more than anything we could have said in the interview.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it was just such a powerful thing to see, and just it lit a fire underneath me too. Like I'm ready to run through a brick wall this school year. I'm like, let's
Well,
go.
I was going to ask you, now you have a year's worth of them saying like, what's the next step? What's the next level? What's the next? We got the golden pigeon. What's happening? Is there a golden squirrel? Where what's going to be next?
We'll see what happens.
And
you know?
I must tell you, you have to allow yourself that. Like there are times when my sort of like one part of the story ended and I haven't quite kicked up the next start. I try to make that in sync as close as I can, but sometimes life gets in the way, and it's a couple days before like the next one starts up.
Yeah.
But I also think that's super cool. Like, so my units are, I use this web page to sort of be like a portal to that area. So we have this realm
Yeah.
and noble space that's all like looking like castles. But then if they go into the castle, into the map room, there are all these like globes in this like library. And over the year, I make each globe eventually active to take you to the like storyline of what we're doing in Egypt, storyline of what we're doing in. So kids always like go to the map room and are checking like, did the Rome unit go live yet? Did the Rome unit? And kind of like you're saying, like,
Yeah.
how cool is that? Like a bunch of kids wanting to see what the heck we're doing in an excited manner, not in a like type A, like I want to start the project, but in a like, I want to know like what is the Rome unit? They're hitting a refresh button day after day to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, giving that portal, that gateway, that like, they're wanting to get in there and get their hands into that content. So
It's
that's
crazy.
awesome.
It's
That
crazy.
sounds really neat, man. Like map room inside of a castle.
I It's fun. I should probably do an episode on like doing that, but
Yeah.
you're like, yes, do it.
I'm like, yes, please tell me more. I want to go into that castle.
There's so many ideas. Then between like doing the vlog, doing the podcast, doing like, so many ideas. Not enough time to produce all the content.
That's all right. That's what we do though, right?
That's right. That's right.
just keep hustling.
So I can't believe it, but we are at our time already. I mean,
Jeez.
I know, it's just boom, it's gone. So that brings us to reflection time, and I'm curious your spin on Mr. Eckhart's quote here. You ready?
Yeah.
The quote goes, and suddenly you know it's time to start something new and trust the magic of beginnings.
All right. Yeah, that's I'm reminded a little bit of Tara Martin and the Hive Summit and cannonballing in,
Yeah.
and sort of that like moment of something just clicks, like with that golden skull, something just sort of like, I'm walking 8 aisles down, and all of a sudden I'm like running back to the Tchotchkes
I
to
hope
be
no
like,
one bought
I
it
need,
yet.
yeah, trust me, no one was buying it. But like, that realization of like, wow, this could be really be something, and then just having that faith and trust in yourself and also the people around you to know that, like, you know, we're going to go through this thing and I don't know if it's going to work. We'll see what happens. And, hopefully something awesome comes out of it. And, and then who knows? Something awesome possibly could. What's the worst that could happen?
No, I mean, for me, the quotes smacks of that, like you suddenly know something. You have that idea, that epiphany. And, I'm reminded of a book I read by Mel Robinson. She's talking about this, like, this idea that our brain is actually built to protect us, which means it's most often is kind of almost built to kill ideas because an idea is a risk. An idea is, oh, I'm going to raise my hand, like, but I might get it wrong. Like, it's instant. Like within
Mhm.
5 seconds, your brain's already come up with 6 reasons you shouldn't raise your hand. You know, um, and so she really talks about we have to like try to overcome that natural tendency. So I like it. Like we all have that moment where we know, like, oh, this would be great, and then seconds later, here's 10 reasons I shouldn't do it. I got this, I got that. It's going to take more time, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, that self-doubt,
Yeah,
that element of like, oh, well, other people can do that. That's not for me. And that's just like, no, man, that's totally for you too.
yeah. I
Go
think
for it.
I think sometimes we're trapped by what we think we are. Like we're trapped by an image of ourselves, as opposed to realizing that the idea of who we are is very fluid. Like you could be any
Yeah.
teacher you want. You can be a zany teacher. You can be a like desks and rows teacher. You can be whatever the heck you want. Like you just have to like put one foot in front of the other towards that direction, and then you are that.
Yeah.
So
Just, habits,
yeah,
habit.
it
Keep
is.
going.
She says that too in her book. That like you have like some people are like, well, like I procrastinate, and she's like, you're not a procrastinator. You have a habit of procrastination. Like no one is anything. Like it's just that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So nonetheless, and then I think it's important when you get that epiphany. I love this idea of like trusting the beginning. Like trust that it is going to be okay. Trust that you're a bright individual and you'll make corrections. Not everything's going to be perfect, but like put it in play. Don't kill the idea. So I loved it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, thank you so much for taking some time here to be on Well Played. This has been a long time coming. Dwight and I have tried to like pin down this episode for a while, but you
Yeah.
know he had a lot of work cut out for him at the end of the
It's
year.
I did, but this is really great to be finally get onto Well Played and chat with you, and really looking forward to an awesome school year and more XP Lab chat and just learning lots. So thanks a lot for having me.
No problem, and I'm pretty certain it's going to happen again. I want to hear how more of the Golden Society sort of goes throughout the year. Uh, Also, if I can point it out, I know you don't totally use this the way I do, but Dwight has a YouTube channel that you could check out. It's more for
Yeah.
your students, right? I mean, it's more.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a YouTube channel that I've started doing daily videos for my students and everything. Is just sort of students that weren't in class that day or students that were absent or need a refresher, anything like that. Just sort of doing a rundown of like, hey, here's what we did in class, here's what was discussed. Maybe you guys have a quiz coming up, and I might like read through the quiz, or something along those lines, just sort of helping the students out. So yeah, more of that kind of thing.
Well, that kind
Uh,
of thing.
yeah,
Well, I would say though, I mean, I checked it out. I definitely enjoy it in terms of it gave me some ideas of ways to connect to students that weren't there. So, wanted to give a shout out to your channel. Check it out for people. Like I said, I think there's some good ideas, some good things we could all learn from and use for ourselves.
yeah, great.
Every, Everybody, thanks so much for joining us. It was super fun connecting with you, Dwight, and everyone else. I just appreciate it every week that you guys make this a regular stop. I hope you also make your way over to XP Lab on Tuesday nights And this episode always comes out on Tuesday, so check it out. It's 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. It's a half-hour chat. Flies by, and it's always a good time.
Oh, absolutely. Learn lots.
I know, it's a great community. I love it. So everyone, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.